What's up, everybody? This is Bobby D here. Bobby D here with a good friend of mine. I've got Mr. Taylor here. We're here to talk about nerd stuff. We're here to talk about Power Rangers. We're here to talk about all sorts of things. Taylor, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. And if we're talking Power Rangers, we're probably going to need a couple other podcasts.
Probably. Well, we'll do more. I mean, it's just like I always tell people, I just like to have conversations. That's why I even got the Power Rangers wallpaper up there of the original 5.
No green, though?
Well, we couldn't afford the Green Ranger. Kind of goes into what, Marcus Adams, Jared, whatever his name is nowadays. He was talking about how he thinks the Green Ranger is my favorite Ranger, but his favorite Ranger is the White Ranger. So what I did is I took out both Green Ranger and the White Ranger and put that as a wallpaper.
Yeah, I got a bone to pick with both you on that, by the way.
Do you?
Yeah, because, I agree with you. The Green Ranger is the superior Ranger. But we're not going to go into the fact that you left out my boy Adam. Adam, the Green Zeo Ranger. Well, the second Black Ranger.
Well, wasn't he the Zeo and the Turbo Green Ranger?
Yeah, but I never really count the Turbo because he had to share that with someone else.
Who did he share it with?
He shared it with Carlos, the Black Space Ranger.
Yeah, because that's when everything started getting a little muddy, when they started just changing out people right off the whim. It wasn't even a big thing, it was just, we're just going to... Well, TJ was the Red Ranger. And
Ashley was yellow.
Ashley.
And Cassie was the Pink Ranger.
Yeah. So Ashley, yeah, I think you told me that Ashley was was your Kimberly, because most people, it's the Pink Ranger, the original, but...
Yeah, so... First off, I'm going to preface this. Babe, if we're watching this was when I was a kid. All right, just wanted to cover that.
Was a kid? No, we're always kids. But, but it's kind of like, what do they call it? Hall pass or whatever? And not that you do it. I'm just saying, like, your celebrity crush.
There,
that's crush. Probably a better word to say instead of hall pass. But
growing up, my first Ranger crush was Ashley from Power Rangers in Space. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's something about it. So everyone's like, "Oh, but Kimberly, that was my first crush." I'm like, Kimberly wasn't that good though. Like, she was kind of mean sometimes.
Yeah.
She was the stereotypical, like, Valley girl from California or whatever. It was all shopping and being, everything looks good and things like that.
Yeah.
But Ashley had more of a character. Like, she, like, was a person, and you kind of, like, gravitated towards that. And then this is kind of where I started realizing I had issues, because not long after that, I kind of started thinking to myself, but Astronema, though. Mm-hmm. Astronema, the villain of Power Rangers in Space. I was like...
Yeah.
And then we all, like, Diva Talks at one point.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I remember, I think Power Rangers, I guess I was a little older. I was 13 when the very first Power Rangers episode aired. And, yeah, it's timing. It was timing. So, yeah, Kimberly she definitely caught my eye.
Yeah.
As a 13-year-old, barely a teenager, if you know what I'm saying, I mean... Mm-hmm. I'm not going to really get more into it than that, but
this is a Christian show.
Yeah, we try to be, at least. I haven't heard any curse words yet, but it's probably coming eventually. But but like you said, I mean, but wasn't Angel Grove the fictional town? Wasn't it pretty much based out of California?
Yeah, I feel like that was L.A. at the most.
Yeah, and so of course everything was the stereotypical. She was the fashion, does gymnastics or the beam or whatever, and then the typical.
Oh my God, they're having
girl.
A sale over at the mall. I have to get there tonight.
I remember. What was the first episode where she was like, I don't know if I want to be a Power Ranger because my hair gets messed up, and then they're like, what? And so she's like, not, and it's just like that. Pretty much set the tone of her character, pretty much.
Or even when the Megazord is being formed for the first time, they're all jumping into the Zords and they're like going, "This is Zach here, ready to roll. Billy here, all systems go." Kimberly jumps in. Hey, cool stereo.
Yeah, it's like, hey, cool stereo.
Are you thinking there was a stereo in that thing?
I'm sure there was. It had everything else in it. It might as well have a stereo as well. But yeah, I still remember Saturday morning watching that first episode, and I had no idea that they had filmed another episode prior to that, and the Yellow Ranger was different.
Yeah, the original pilot. She was actually going to be at one of the conventions that I saw coming up, which, for those who don't know, I love these conventions, and I plan on going to the next Ranger stop, which is unfortunately going to be the last one they're doing in Atlanta.
When is it?
June 13th, I believe.
That's coming. Okay.
So far, the ones I know that are going to be there are going to be Steve Cardenas, the second Red Ranger, Austin St. John, the first Red Ranger, Walter Jones, the Black Ranger, and a few other Rangers like Nakia Burris, the Yellow Ranger from Zeo, which Zeo was one of my favorites. That I will stand by. That is where I thought the powers were like the coolest.
Yeah.
Zords not so much, but the powers themselves were kind of cool. Like it was like from a pure thing, like the Zeo crystal, like this thing, and it like supercharged them.
Yeah. It was interesting when Zeo came out because it was kind of the evolution, because they had done Mighty Morphin for 3 seasons, and it was kind of the same iteration of Power Rangers, and then the Zeo, and they kind of they put Tommy as Red, so they officially that's when I officially felt like he was a leader, because when they did the White Ranger, they tried to say he was the leader, but I'm sorry, before Austin St.
You
John
associated the Red for so long with the leader. He was the one calling shots.
Yes.
I liked it because it kind of shook things up a little bit, because for the longest time you thought Rocky was second in command. No, like I said, Adam, greatest Ranger, who was second in command. He was clearly the one who knew more about what was going on. He had the most level head among them. Plus, Johnny Ong Bosch is awesome. Like, I don't know if he's like a big anime like voice actor.
Yeah.
He plays one of my all-time favorite characters, which is Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach. He was Vash Stampede from Trigun, and he's currently Broly in Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, but like I said, it all goes back to Power Rangers, and come on, one of the most iconic scenes of Power Rangers is when he's all sad when he gets the ninja powers. He's like, I'm a frog.
I'm a frog.
And then the warrior princess,
Dulcia. The hot warrior princess comes in. And
Did you ever see who was originally supposed to be Dulcia?
No.
Mariska Hargitay from Law and Order.
That's right. That's right. I remember reading about that.
Yeah. Wait, if you think that's funny, do you remember the Machine Empire?
Yes.
All right. Do you know who the queen was?
No, but I bet you're going to tell me.
It was Lois Griffin.
Really?
Lois Griffin from Family Guy.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that now. I can see that. That is interesting, because I remember reading about Mariska Hargitay. Like, what does Mike Myers say it in The Guru or whatever?
Mariska Hargitay.
Yeah.
Mariska Hargitay.
Yeah. I remember reading about it, and I looked and I thought, yeah, that would have fit pretty well. I mean, but it would have been interesting to see her, because I've always known her as being the Law and Order. I mean, obviously Law and Order, the mature roles and stuff, and to see her in a kid's
movie, basically.
Yeah, a movie, it would have been, but it would fit, because if you think the actress that played her, and they look very similar.
She was actually, if I remember the story correctly, she had a scheduling conflict, which she wanted to leave the set. And go back home because she wanted to spend time with family, and they were just like, well, this isn't going to work for us.
Yeah.
So the person who took over as Dulcia was actually her stunt double.
Okay. Okay.
That's how I remember it. I have a book on the whole thing at home. I can just crack it open.
Yeah.
I'll probably come back to this Bobby, we got to reshoot.
Yeah. Oh, we'll do more. I mean, we'll do more of this, because like you said, I mean, I don't think we can really scratch the surface, in one session and stuff, and it's kind of like having conversations, and but like you were talking about, I was trying to remember my thought. You were talking about Adam. I remember, as far as conventions, I mean, he was always the guy that, I know, my favorite convention Power Ranger is David Yost. He is, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. But I remember Adam, like you said, he's one of the ones very approachable, and he does a lot of things like I take martial arts. Doesn't he take, or is it?
I think he said that he did martial arts when he was younger.
Yeah, that's right.
But he doesn't really do it now. But he is in a band. I know that.
Okay, that's what it is. Because I get them sometimes mixed up and everything. Because, Austin St. John, of course, he was the first one. Like you said, he's the first one of the first 5. I remember running him to a convention. Kind of. I don't know. I don't know how to say it because I don't really want to. I don't speak ill of people, but it just seemed like
It's one of those cases of don't meet your heroes.
yeah, that's what it comes down to. I remember as the dudes when we were doing pro wrestling, as the dudes, me and Tony, we did a promo on him, and I was talking about going to Dragon Con in Atlanta and running into him, and he seemed very like direct and there for one purpose, and it wasn't to associate with fans. Then I go, and this is what I meant by David Yoss here. When I said a second ago, he's like my favorite convention guy because he was one that was very outgoing. He actually felt like for the brief time that talked to him, he did the most he could within that 20 seconds. As far as the conversation, I felt like I knew him after 20 seconds,
Oh, yeah.
whereas Austin St. John was almost like you try to do the same thing with him, and he just slowly turns the camera to get the picture, take your money, and move on.
He's like the local wrestler who has a long line. Who's like, take a picture. Okay, come on, keep it moving.
Yeah. But he didn't have that big of a line. I mean, I'm not trying to sound mean, but I didn't see anybody behind me at the time, so I thought, man, give me 5 more seconds, because I was, I'm a martial artist, and that's one of the big lures of Power Rangers. Because, like I said, I got into it at a later, as a teenager when I got into Power Rangers, and it's because of martial arts. That was the initial draw. I was like, oh man, there's a bunch of people in colorful outfits fighting, doing kicks and punches, and I do martial arts too.
Monsters on kaiju movie standards. Which that will always be. I don't like some of the more CGI Power Ranger stuff, but I love the old monster suits.
Yeah.
Those things were awesome.
So, okay, saying that, what did you think of how they presented the 95 movie, for the Power Rangers, the movie where it was all CGI instead of the old footage, they went the CGI route. What did you think of?
So, I understood why it was so poorly made because, I mean, it was a kid's movie being adapted to a live action movie, or it was a kid's show being adapted to a major motion picture.
Yeah.
That being said, I kind of dug it. Like, I still love watching. I wish though there were some scenes where the ectomorphicons, the big hornet and scorpion, were a little bit better looking. But the things with like Ivan Ooze, I thought was spot on. That was like peak Power Ranger stuff. Like especially when he like oozes his like long face off the building. So I kind of always thought that was peak Power Ranger. Like kind of.
I enjoyed
effects.
I think I have to have the VHS Power Rangers over there somewhere.
I was actually watching both the movies, like OG, the 95 movie and the Turbo movie, like the other night.
So between the Turbo and the 95, the original, which one's your favorite?
It's hard. I'm gonna go with the 95 because Ivan Ooze is just one of the best villains of all time, and that's because he had the most character. Like it's like if you turned Genie from Aladdin evil, because he had all these references and all these little like fourth wall breaks and things like that. Like he's all, oh, you robbed me of my bride, all the things I missed, the Black Plague, the Spanish Inquisition, the Brady Bunch reunion.
Yeah.
Or, the whole, like, Rocky is all like, you better pack your bags because we're going to sit and you packing. Like, gee, a teenager with a big mouth. Not much has changed. And then he said, Ed, we're the Power Rangers. Woo! Where's my autograph book?
Yeah.
I love Ivan Ooze. That's another one of my idols I want to meet one day is Paul Freeman, who plays Ivan Ooze.
Yeah.
And for any other nerd fandom, he was Belloc in Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I've already tracked down like what I want him to sign. I want him to sign like a can of ooze. Because there's a maker on Etsy who makes like screen accurate versions of the ooze.
Do they have the in the movie what did he was selling the ooze, right?
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm talking about. Like,
very similar to like Batman when Joker was selling the stuff in the original '89 Batman, right? That's what it reminded me of.
Joker product.
Yes, and it reminded me of that scene. And so the people that exists, people make that. That right there, or was it something a little different on it?
No, it's like it's the replica of the bottle, like the little screw off top.
God, that's something I gotta add.
They even make their own. They make their own slime to put in it. Which honestly, I think if I get some, I kind of want to get 2 just so I can just put on like my work outfit, which is just like, you know, neon yellow.
Yeah.
And I'll put a hard hat on, and I'll just walk around with ooze on my fingers, and I'll just go like, leap to our doom. Leap to our doom.
Talking about the 95 movie, it's funny because it's starting to, you know, because you watch a lot of YouTube videos and stuff, and everybody's a critic, you know, especially with nostalgia. And I'm not talking about the nostalgia critic, but, you know, I love it how people talk about, you know, that is a very 90s movie, like the rollerblading at the very beginning.
I know.
It was within 10 minutes. What was it? The parachute thing?
Yeah.
And then rollerblading within like 5 minutes, and like you have to get these. That's 90s. That's just
with the rainbow mohawk helmets.
Yeah.
And like what Bulk and Skull were wearing. Or you had like they made rollerblading look cool, but rollerblading was not cool ever.
I was talking to somebody last night about rollerblade because one of my students, she twisted her ankle, and that was always my thing. Is I could do rollerblades, but I could never do like the square, the old roller skate, because my ankles are so weak. I could never do those, and so I did the inline. But like you said, I mean, around here, I didn't see many people doing that, you know, unless you went to the skate country or whatever, you went to the skating rink.
And you think that those would be like harder to steer because like they're in a straight line. No.
Yeah.
No, like you have to balance on it. No.
Yeah.
But like I said, Power Rangers made it look cool. Like anybody could do it, because you got the scene where they're like going backwards off the stairs. And I kept thinking to myself, I bet the stunt doubles who did that broke something the first try.
I'm sure they did.
And then you have like, it's all the other stuff on top of it, which was like, you know, the very clear promotional shot for like the Tacoma that the dad was driving.
Yeah.
And it has the full on like shot at the beginning. I'm like, well, we know who paid for this. And then that was the best alpha ever looked, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Zordon was kind of creepy though.
Well, that's the thing. You could tell like in the original 95 movie that they put a lot of backing production wise versus the Turbo movie that came out a couple years later. It looked just like a very long episode of the regular show that you see every
week.
With
only slightly upgraded like props.
Yeah.
Because like the Megazord looks 10 times better than it did in the show.
Yeah.
But you know, Zordon looks exactly the same. Power Rangers, Morphs, and all that look exactly the same.
Now, a question I have. At the very beginning of the Turbo movie, what happened to the Zeo powers? What happened to the Zeo powers? Because that's a big question that's asked a lot. Is like they just, you know, because usually it was. Sorry to interrupt. It was, you know, when they lost the Mighty Morphin powers, they had to go search for the Zeo crystal. But transition from Zeo to Turbo, it was almost like, here's your new Turbo powers.
So they explained it in the movie, but they go into more depth in the comics.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to fully read the comics, so it's been a while. But because you know, Kat, she turns Pink Zeo to keep her from like killing herself when she falls off the cliff.
Yeah.
So the way they handled it was like they tried to explain in the movie that the Malagor is so powerful, the Zeo powers won't work.
Okay.
But in the comic, it's also explained like the Zeo powers are so potent, it's unstable. Like they're not gonna like it wasn't like, you know, they're using broken power coins, but it's like they are exuding so much power that it's gonna eventually burn out.
Okay.
That's why Tommy would only break out the Zeo power like every couple decades, you know.
Okay.
Because remember in Forever Red, he had the Zeo powers.
I was gonna say because
they were never destroyed. They just had to put them on the shelf because they needed a different power source.
And that makes sense because a lot of times, you know, if you go by just what everybody does, it's like we get something's destroyed, you gotta get something new. But I like that because you keep it, you know, kind of keep it in reserve and keep everything. But I forgot. Yeah, she did when they were doing the jungle scene. Where they find what was his
Larigo.
Larigo, yeah. I love how you remember these names. I do. It's just I just can't. I just need to go back and start watching this stuff again.
It's so good, but it's so cheesy at the same time.
I know, and that's the thing. Like when I do summer camps, there was a point that we you know, Netflix. I had Netflix for a summer camp, and during lunch we would go back and every Power Ranger got put on there, and we were started watching, I remember going through Mighty Morphin like the first couple seasons and just being like, this is not exactly how I remember it. But as far as like, you know, looking at it through my eyes nowadays as an adult,
Like you're watching stuff with very good practical effects now, and then you go
Yeah.
back and watch old 95 footage or 93 footage where it was like this. We had to recycle a lot.
yeah. And that's the other thing. And I didn't ever, as a kid or a teenager, whatever you want to call it, I did not realize at first that they used the footage, the
Japanese footage.
Japanese
the
footage.
Sentai footage.
But looking back on it, it is super obvious.
Yeah. If you look close in some episodes of the Thunder Ranger series, you'll catch a couple glimpses of the other Rangers, like the Die Ranger, which that was, I think it was Gosei Sentai Die Ranger. But you'll catch like it's usually like just a little bit like right here, like from the chest out.
Yeah.
Because they're giving off the illusion that it's the like Ranger swinging, but in reality you can see the little logo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was a lot of people don't understand is like the Thunder Zord, anything with the Thunder Zords, different series. White Ranger was never involved in the OG of what was the Mighty Morphin series. I'm sorry to tell anyone this, but Saban did not create the Power Rangers.
He didn't?
No. Toei did. In fact, this is like one thing that always like blew my mind when I first learned about the whole series. The Green Ranger straight up dies.
Yeah.
He does not get new powers. He is dead.
Yeah.
D-E-D.
Because that was, and as a kid, it was messy because I think Tommy, Jason David Frank, got too popular. I think that's what happened because when, you know, of course, he was the American actor played in Green Ranger versus, like you said, the original Japanese actor. Yeah, in the original, they killed him off, and it's like, but how do you? Nobody wanted Tommy to be killed off in the show, and I always remember the episode where he kind of comes back for temporary, you know, gets the temporary powers.
Yeah, they like recharge him every other episode.
Yeah.
Because like his powers are now unstable because he's on borrowed time. Then Zed takes the rest of his power, and then we get the White Ranger, which, everyone's all like, yeah, but the White Ranger is like way better. Which I want to ask you this: what makes White Ranger versus Green Ranger so much better? Like, I'm going off of like what I think looks cooler. The Dragon Zord looked cooler than Tiger Zord. Yeah. But if you just sit there and think about it, it's the exact same thing, just a different color.
Yeah.
Think about it. It complements the other Zord. It doesn't really. It does its own thing, but it doesn't like hinder anything else. Tommy is awesome as a character, regardless, because that's why I got look, I got the Dragon Zord tattoo, but I always keep all his symbols on my arm, like.
Yes.
Despite the fact that I think Zeo was like the best.
And he's been the most colors, right?
Yes. That would be it would be green, white, red, black. Yeah. And then you got Draken.
Yeah.
But
when's that coming out? Is it out yet?
What, Lord Draken?
Yeah.
That's in the comics.
Okay.
Oh, you're thinking of Legend of the White Dragon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's coming out like soon. I know that Aaron Shirka is still like putting it together because, you know, it's kind of hard to do when you have a star that passes away.
Yep, it is.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
But like I said, character-wise, I always kind of like Adam. Like Tommy was my favorite growing up. But when I started getting to like middle school and high school, I started realizing Adam was way cooler because that's when I kind of started realizing like anime and all that other stuff. I loved watching Bleach and Trigun and things like that, and then I realized, oh, that's the Black Ranger, and I went back and watched some of this stuff because I'm that weirdo like, no, it's not, and then I have to go watch footage, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's it, but then I'm like kind of hung up like, let me watch a couple more episodes, and then you kind of realize Adam was the more level-headed of the Rangers at one point. Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this: who kept getting brought back aside from Tommy?
Adam.
It was Adam, yeah, and like. Also, everyone hates on Operation Overdrive on the episodes where like they brought all the Rangers back. That was the coolest MMPR morph that they had Adam do. Yeah, because okay, so this is what it looks like when Adam morphs, and not just a floating head in a morpher.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I liked Adam. We talked about the Rocky. I always felt like Rocky got a bad. He got kind of like a bad
Oh, he
timing
got
situation
dogged. Yeah.
because I remember running into him at a convention in Knoxville, Fanboy, and I remember him being there, and it was just weird. Walking by he didn't have as many people at his thing, and then the whatever the thing is that they did on Saturday night, the little club thing that they did, and some of the guys, I got to see William Zakaba from Karate Kid. I got to see Joey Fatone from NSYNC and Steve Cardenas, Red Ranger, and I wanted to go talk to him, but like I said, I always felt like that he always got like the second fiddle because regardless of how I feel about Austin St. John and you feel about him, that it was big shoes to fill when he had to take over the Red because he got subjugated to like when Tommy was the White Ranger, he was the leader, even though I didn't feel like you said, I felt like the Red Ranger was the Red is the leader. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It is the lead. They did the Forever Red
the
episode.
formula.
They did the whole episode about Forever Red. The red, and red's my favorite color. So,
And, like you said, yeah, that was the formula in Japan. Red was always the leader.
yeah.
I like that. I like you said with Rocky. It was the whole, you're not our original hero. You're not the star that we've grown accustomed to, which is understandable. I mean, is anyone here happy that The Witcher got recast? No, we are not happy. Or like when you watch, I know The Marine sucks, but like when you watch The Marine, do you want to see The Miz and Ted DiBiase Jr. or do you want to see John Cena?
I want to see John Cena.
Yeah, you want to see John Cena because that's The Marine.
Even though I can't see him.
But it was always that whole, you're not who we grew up with, so we're not gonna like you, which was horrible because like it wasn't his fault that the studio was greedy and they didn't want to pay the actors what they were worth.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't his fault that he kicked enough butt to get the role.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, he was just doing his job. Honestly, I liked Rocky when he was the Red Ranger.
Yeah.
Growing up, like when I was a kid, like I'm not as old as you because I was born in '94, so I was -1 when the show came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when I got to a point where my mom would always put on like Power Rangers when I was like a kid, and reruns were always happening, I was always confused. Like, is this going to be an episode with Rocky? Is this going to be an episode with Jason?
Mm-hmm.
Because I always liked when Rocky was on screen, but Tommy was Green Ranger, so it was always confusing.
Yeah, yeah.
But Rocky to me he had a little more comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Jason was too serious at times, but Rocky, he just wanted to have fun. Like,
it seems like that he's like that in real life too.
Like, if Jason, like, let's say if Jason was in the movie, like with Ivan Ooze, Jason jumps the Ape Zord off the building onto the back of the Hornet, and then he's probably just going to be like, Rangers, get over here! I can't hold on much longer!
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Rocky literally just goes, yeehaw!
Yeah.
Ride him, cowboy! And then he's hanging on, like, Rocky, hang on! Oh, I'm hanging!
Yeah.
Which, I feel like that's what people aren't taking into account is character-wise.
Mm-hmm.
They are two different characters. That's what you have to look for. That's also kind of wherever I weigh into the whole, why is White Ranger better than Green Ranger? Why is Green Ranger better than White Ranger? Mm-hmm. It's the same Ranger.
Yeah.
Like, Zord-wise, but if you're going to be like, oh, but I like Dragon Zord, I like Tiger Zord, okay. Yeah. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
You can defend that. But as a Ranger, Tommy is Tommy.
Yeah.
You might as well be saying,
well, it's short hair Tommy, long hair Tommy,
spiky hair Tommy,
MMA Tommy with all the tattoos.
Yep.
And, it's
Dad Tommy.
Dad Tommy. I mean, yeah. But yeah, like you said, like one thing, what made me feel sympathy for Rocky, I really thought when the Turbo movie came out, they cast Justin or the Blake Foster, they cast the kid in the role. I thought it was just for the movie. I didn't realize he was going to continue on in the Turbo series. I thought Rocky would get the blue powers, the blue turbo powers, and it was just a
placeholder.
It was just, let's bring the kid to the movie to get more kids to come to the movie. And then when I watched the first Turbo episode, and he's like, "Well, the power's always been yours," and I'm just like, "Really?" So I always felt like that this was his time to really set in. And then he gets injured in the movie, and then he just kind of like, "Hey, I'm here, but I'm not a ranger."
Yeah. In there's like always that's the thing. People only go off of the TV shows, but the comics expand on that. All right, so
and they can because you don't have to worry about stuff that you can do.
Do you remember when Trini, Zach, and Jason left the show?
Yes.
Okay, we all know that in reality it's because of pay disputes and contracts and things like that.
Yeah.
Now, in the story they put in the show, it was because they got chosen to be part of that summit, to represent Angel Grove and things like that. In the comics, that's a cover. Zordon made the cover. It's really because there is like something going down, and he needs somebody to go out and investigate. Yeah. And he gives them new Ranger powers. They're the Omega Rangers.
Okay.
So
God, I got the comics. I got the first, I think 7 or 8. I'm gonna have to start.
I got
reading
a couple
them.
of them too.
I'm gonna have to start reading them.
Yeah, I had collected a few, but I need to get more. So I read a lot of them online. Mm-hmm. My personal favorite is the crossover between Power Rangers and Nightmare on Elm Street.
They made a Freddy.
It's straight up Freddy Krueger.
I've not seen this.
So it is exactly what you would expect. Those are two worlds that are not supposed to mesh, and they mesh. Mm-hmm. Like one of the scenes they recreate the scene where Nancy is in the tub and Freddy's glove pops up between her legs. It's with Tommy, and they're all going around like talking about what Nightmare Freddy has done. Like they have Kimberly getting turned into a bug, or Zach getting turned into, or he's being chased down the boiler room, and then like, Tommy, what do you do in your dream? And it shows the flashback of him in the tub and the glove reaching up. He goes, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then the coolest part of that is, this was back when Lord Zed was kind of always scoping around like Angel Grove, and it wasn't so much that he was having Finster make monsters for him. It was he would look around, find something that was popping out at him, and then he'd be like, I'm going to turn that into a monster.
Yeah.
They have Bulk and Skull. They just came back from the movie place, and they have a scary movie. It's Nightmare on Elm Street. And he's like, I'm going to bring that monster to life.
Okay.
He thinks it's oh, you Rangers, I'm going to, we're going to square up one more time. All that cheesy stuff.
Yeah.
No. First thing Freddy does is he sticks his blades in Bulk. He straight up murders Bulk and Skull.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry if anyone who hasn't read it.
Gosh.
But, wait. It's not a spoiler, though. It's not.
Oh, it's not a spoiler?
No. Stuff happens.
Okay.
But
okay. Read the comic.
First issue of the comic is that Zed is like basically being like, you need to understand who's in charge here. Freddy, he gets his bubble gets bleeped out, like in the comics.
Okay.
But he basically just says, waits till Fred or Zed's back's turn, and he reaches over, grabs Zed by the brain, and yanks out.
Oh wow!
And then he just like slings on the ground, picks up Zed's staff. The Z turns into an F. He gets this cool armor with stripes all over it, and a big like respirator. And he goes, I'm Lord Fred. You're all my children now.
Lord Fred.
It works too.
I like that.
He's got like a claw on his shoulder coming out, and it's really cool looking. And he keeps bringing other horror icons into the mix. Like Jason's supposed to be his like foot soldier.
Yeah.
The Rangers need to be distracted, so he turns Jason giant.
Okay.
And then like when that doesn't work, they bring out Pinhead to be like kind of like Lokar in the sky.
Yeah.
And when the Rangers get like they're transported to Freddy's world because they need to find how to beat him.
Yeah.
They bring back Masked Rider.
Okay.
And they're like, well, Masked Rider doesn't have a sword, so they give him the Dragon Dagger.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
They give him the dragon. So Masked Rider is piloting Dragon Zord, and now they just put out Godzilla versus Power Rangers.
Really?
Yes. And at one point, Godzilla morphs. Yeah.
Into.
No, he just gets Dragon Zord armor.
Oh, okay. That's what pictured in my brain.
Imagine Godzilla with the Dragon Zord head on top of him. Like it's almost like a headdress. Almost.
Yeah.
And then you have and then the cooler ones were like, Justice League versus or Justice League meet the Power Rangers, or Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, which that Green Ranger Shredder is one of the coolest designs I've ever seen.
Wow.
Which honestly, that should probably check your boxes here because Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah. Just like I enjoyed, like we talked about the crossover. Was it in space?
Yes.
In space, you had the Next Mutation Turtles and the Space Rangers.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people trash that, and they trash the Ninja Turtles because it only went for one season. There was a fifth turtle, all that. But I mean, I always, after Turtles 3, and I liked Turtles 3. I know everybody hated the one where they went back in time in the movie. But after that movie, I wanted more live action, not the CGI stuff that they come out with Michael Bay, but I wanted more of the suits, the live action. And I know CGI is easier to do than actual whatever, but and when I remembered,
because I feel like you just have to cast one suit, whereas you have to render a lot.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm saying like how they had to put on the suits, and you hear stories about them having to. Can't really see out of him, and then you see the little mistakes in the movies where the guy has the
like his mouth within the mouth,
the mouth in the mouth and stuff. And
Hollywood, I want you to pay attention. We like the rubber suits.
Yeah, I like practical effects, and I know I'm not the only one that does, but yeah, the 2014 and I don't know when the second Turtles movie came out, just really didn't do much for me. I mean, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and bash it, but
they ruined Casey Jones though.
Yeah, and it was almost like they attempted to try to make him better than he was in the original movies.
Well,
but
look who was playing him. They were trying to cash in on Green Arrow fame.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about the remakes, like, did you like the Power Rangers remake in 2017?
Kind of the same deal. Like, I liked it, but it was. Again, CGI. I mean, I did like the way they tried to
make it original, kind of.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. But the story wasn't. It wasn't like they get transported to the thing and they get their powers and you're done. It was. I liked the slow burn of like they had to earn it, and I did like that. Of course, the double-edged sword with that is the part I didn't like is you didn't get to see much of the Power Rangers. It was third act. It was third act Power Rangers. So I would have wanted a happy medium. Like, earn the powers, but yet have them for a second, instead of, because of course, everything nowadays is setting up the next movie because money, let's set up a franchise. And I remember the after credit scene, Tommy Oliver, come to the principal's office or whatever.
And we didn't get it.
And exactly.
The person who apparently they were at one point were lobbying to play him in the sequel was supposed to be the guy that plays William Zabka's son in Cobra Kai.
Really?
They wanted him to play. This is after Cobra Kai had just got on. And then fans were all like, he should be Tommy. I
can see that, yeah.
But that Jason in that movie is the older asshole brother from Stranger Things?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Billy. It was Billy in Stranger Things, yeah. But yeah, like, and didn't they at one point because they were looking to possibly cast a female for the Green Ranger, Tommy, to be a female at one point too.
I think so, because
when they were talking about the second that never came.
Because the original thing in the movie is that Rita was the Green Ranger.
Yeah.
And I kind of dug that.
I dug that
makes
too.
Sense.
Yeah.
In the comics and in the show, it's explained that Ninjor made the Green Ranger coin, but she sent somebody to steal it, and he became a Ranger. And when he stole it, she sealed him inside the dark dimension, and he just left him there. He died with the coin in his hand. So in order to reactivate it, did you ever wonder why he has a shield and no one else does?
Yes.
But
why?
It's because in the comics, when Rita has to reactivate it, it's like sealed. There's nothing she can do. So she has to call on the ghost of her mother. And she has this armor, and that it kind of forms the dragon shield. But her mother and Master Vile polar opposites. Like she's kind of more protective. She's more of like a. I mean, she's evil because she married Master Vile, but
Yeah.
She had more of this protective nature to her. So, but Rita, power hungry, she decides to seal away her mother's ghost. She uses that to break the spell on the coin. But when the Ranger morphs, it has the green shield, the dragon shield on it.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's because that was Rita's mother's final act on this plane, is that she was going to protect Rita. Because the Green Ranger was linked to Rita first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where that came from. And it's one of those things, like, you read it for the first time, you're like, I did not expect to cry over Power Rangers today.
Yeah. 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 And I love that. I had no idea. You always wonder, but like you said, it was one of those things that you go, well, I wonder about it, but you don't really think about it until, like you just told me, you're just like, this is it. This is the.
Then again, you probably wouldn't have known unless you got a huge Ranger nerd down here like me.
That's right. That's why I like having the conversation with you. We always talk about nerd stuff. I mean, Power Rangers, everything, wrestling, all that stuff.
It's easy for me to kind of latch on this stuff because growing up, I was that kid that was always bullied because I was quiet.
Yeah.
So I kind of submerged myself in this fantasy stuff because, my life sucked, but, or at least I felt it did. But I had all these like heroes and stuff, so I kind of latch onto. So I'm big in like Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, anime, horror movies, things like that. It's because for me it was this escape, and also like, well, in this the nerds are kind of the victors.
Yeah,
which it makes sense.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm zigzagging on my topics here.
No, you're good, man. Well, we're just having a conversation. That's what I love about this.
Yeah. Like one thing I really loved about Power Rangers, aside from like just it being a cheesy, like campy monster flick that we're just always watching because it's giant robots versus monsters. The soundtracks, those things were awesome.
I remember going into Kmart. The local Kmart when it was around, and I got what was it called, the Adventure or whatever. It was in a long box. It was a CD. It was, and I've got it somewhere. I don't know where it's at, but it's the long box.
I know you're talking
and
about.
It's a Rock Adventure or something like that. It's the Power Rangers Rock Adventure, and it basically has all the. God, I never can remember the Mighty Raw. I think it's the Mighty Raw, the band, and
Ron Wasserman.
Yes, and they the second season or third season when they started doing the music, the 541, the I Will Win, the Go Green Ranger.
That was the first season.
Oh, was it? Okay,
it was just halfway through first.
Okay. And I remembered I liked those songs, but I've always liked nerdy stuff like that. And I was never one of those people, like you said, we were never one of those people that liked what everybody likes, like the rap and the super cool stuff, and I always got made fun of, like you said. We get bullied, and I've always wondered when we were going to grow out of this, because people would constantly tell you that in school, post school, when you get your job. You're going to grow
out of this. Yeah. It's just a phase.
Yeah, I told somebody the other day about
not a phase, Mom.
Like I was saying earlier about Power Rangers when I was 13. Everybody, I don't think one person supported me in that. And what I mean by that is they're like, you're not supposed to like that. You're 13 now. You're supposed to like 13-year-old stuff, normal 30. And I'm like, because like you said, you were born in 94. Well, I was 13 in 93. I'm supposed to move on. I'm not supposed to keep watching Saturday morning kids shows and stuff. I was supposed to grow out of He-Man and Power Rangers and Turtles and Beetleborgs and VR Troopers and everything, but and constantly, but I'm mid-40s now, and I'm still wondering when I'm going to grow out of all this stuff.
Oh yeah, like I grew up. I kind of caught that flag from my family and stuff too. Like you're almost 30 years old, and you're 30 years old now. You gotta have to grow up out of this. Quit watching that goofy stuff. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Are
you going to get in trouble on the weekends? Are you doing bad things?
Oh yeah, I'm a real devil on the weekends.
Exactly. Other than that, though, I mean, it keeps you out of trouble. I mean,
Yeah.
you like what you like, right?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so why should people rain on that? Why should people rain on your parade?
yeah, like all right, so like here's like there's one person I knew who everyone liked their friends a little bit more than they liked my friends, or they think what them hanging out were
Yeah.
way better than me just sitting in my room watching nerd stuff like anime and stuff. I grew up, so those same friends of that person I grew up with were going around making like chemical bombs in their backyard, and they got arrested. One of them got arrested for drugs. One of them got arrested for, burning rubber in the Ingles parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm over here like, so why do you hate on me?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, or better yet, people always say like, oh, you need to quit doing all that nerdy stuff. We're normal people, don't do that. These same people will go to football games, paint their faces, and scream at the top of their lungs.
Yeah.
How is that different from me wanting to do cosplay and going to a convention?
It's not. It's not. And that's what always gets me. And I've even like recently in the last 5-10 years, I've gotten flack because I'm absolutely not that person. Like you just described, someone who paints their face and goes and screams over a sports team and gets mad because their favorite team didn't win. I mean, teach your own. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But like you said, there's nothing wrong with it. But it needs to be reciprocated. Like there's nothing wrong with what I do. Like you said, going to conventions, cosplaying, watching stuff, reliving your childhood. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those things. And I get sick and tired of people trying to make something wrong with it, and so my go-to is always, oh, you like that nerdy stuff? Well, you like football. I hate football. I mean, I don't hate football.
Like people look at you and probably think because you run a sports business, you're a Aikido instructor.
Yeah.
That, oh, you probably love basketball and football and things like that.
I was never a good basketball player. It was the one sport that I never could play. Like I tried, but I absolutely had zero ability, zero natural ability. And when I had to play, and we had to play basketball in PE all the time, I hated it. I hated PE because I always felt like the PE teacher. It was easy to go into the room and throw out 3-4 basketballs and say, "All right, play for 45 minutes," and I hated that because I told him, I was like, "Can we play softball? Can we play dodgeball? Can we do something else?" And it was always basketball. So I think that's where my hate for basketball started. Like I said, I don't hate people that love basketball. It wasn't for me. Like if I had an episode of Power Rangers or a basketball, I'm probably going to watch the episode of Power Rangers,
Like,
or
that's
playing
with me
video
with football
games or something. Yeah.
Like I hate football, but not because of anything. It's not for me. But I always had people be like, "Oh, you're supposed to be watching football. You should be watching the Atlanta Falcons or the Georgia Bulldogs." I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It's boring. Like, it really is. Now, granted, I do love baseball. I love watching baseball. To me, that's fun. I can do that. I can go out and play. It's easier to follow. Football, not so much for me. Plus, I've yet to see as many concussion rates for baseball versus football. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
As far as like I said, for me, it also, these fantasy stuff, it was an escape for me. Like people don't realize that, like, they assume like, oh, well, just because you grew up in a decent household, nobody was like, calling the cops every other weekend or anything like that. Oh, so you had a happy childhood. Was it though? Because like I said, I was bullied like a lot. Like I was that kid the nerds picked on. But I think that was more because I was a quiet kid. And so I just submerged myself in these fantasy shows because I wanted to escape. And that's always why I do it. I still, to this day,
it still is an escape.
It's anime, it's Pokemon, Digimon. If anyone hates on Digimon, I swear there's no reason to hate on that show. Power Rangers, Beetleborgs, Dragon Ball Z, Ninja Turtles. It's all an escape for me. It's all therapy for me. Besides, why would you be upset that someone is latched onto positive role models? You find me one bad role model in Power Rangers aside from like the actors being POS.
Wild Force Red Ranger.
I mean, I heard that was self-defense though.
Yeah, okay.
Even that, I feel like.
Yeah. I know. That's just
Maybe
I don't know. I don't know the whole thing. I don't know the whole thing. But yeah, it was.
Yeah,
you hear stories like that,
but still, it's like you said, you don't follow the actors, you follow the character.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
whereas like, when I was in high school, the last like big thing everyone was like, "Oh my god, have you seen the episode of this on?" was Sons of Anarchy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're gun dealers. They are drug dealers. Mm-hmm. They are motorcycle. Yeah. They're a motorcycle gang killing people.
Yeah.
You're okay with me watching this, but I turn on Power Rangers for 5 minutes, and you want to.
Well, it's like Breaking Bad. Yeah. What are they doing in Breaking Bad? I mean, yeah, it's funny how I think it's just it fits people's narrative. It's a one thing, and we can talk more about this in depth, but wrestling was the same way for me. WWF, I like the Bushwhackers and the Rockers and all the characters, and I got made fun of for that too. I remember I had a Bushwhackers hat, and I think I still have it somewhere. But and
you met Bushwhacker Luke, didn't you?
Yeah. I got his picture.
You could sign the hat.
I know. If I could find the hat, but I always remember this story. And the funniest thing about this, it was at a basketball camp because my parents sent me to a basketball camp one summer. And I will say it like this because nowadays I don't feel this way, but back then I felt like I made the mistake of wearing my Bushwhackers hat to one of the basketball things. And I remember we were doing press passes and stuff, and they were trying to knock the hat off of me. They were trying to almost throw it at me like a dodgeball to knock my hat off of
That goes back to what I was saying. Like, why are you so offended by this? Mm-hmm. It is like, is it because it was a wrestling hat, or is it because you were wearing a hat?
Yeah.
Which again goes back to them just being little jerks because
being an asshole.
I'm trying
being butthole. Sorry, being
butthole. Try not to cuss.
Yeah. Less editing if I don't cuss.
But no, it's like you said. In fact, with wrestling, like, I mean, I assume your audience knows that you own a wrestling show, right?
Yeah.
And
Bobby D, right?
Oh, spoiler! I work there too.
Yeah.
Like
we wrestle. We wrestle on the weekends when we can.
Wait. You remember my first match ever?
What
was I dressed up as, Bobby?
A Ranger?
I was a Red Ranger.
Yeah.
I was the Red Ranger.
I remember that.
So much so that Clint's daughter, every time she see me, she would just go, Red Ranger, Red Ranger.
Yeah.
Which I think was funny, like now.
And I pulled out those morph suits the other day because when me and Marcus wrestled over in Commerce, and we had that Green Ranger versus Red Ranger, I wore the Green Ranger costume. I felt like Gold Dust, like with the one-piece suit, and it was all skin tight, and and that was cool. And it was the first time ever I had seriously wrestled in one of those Power Ranger costumes.
I think he brought a real Green Ranger suit to the show.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you should just hit him up, just come out with a shield on.
Yeah, that would have been cool, but I wouldn't have wanted to ruin it and everything.
I do have the morpher for Green Ranger. So
yeah.
Oh wait. You know who the prop master is? Mark Richardson.
Okay.
All right, so I got to meet him at the horror movie convention where I got a Scream mask signed by Matthew Lillard. Which, by the way, Matthew Lillard, wonderful human being. Dude,
he seems like that.
I literally was just there because I didn't have enough money to get a picture, and I was like, if I'm leaving with a signed Ghostface mask. So I got the mask, and he signed it. Dude just gives me the biggest hug any celebrity's ever given me. I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah.
But while I was, walking around, because I'm talking to all the other, the people at the stands, all the other booths, because I'm trying to branch out as, an artist myself. And my friend John, he goes up and says, hey, dude, there's somebody I think you should really meet. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm walking with him, and we're all just kind of going so who is this? Is this like one of the other guys? I said, no, he said he used to work on Power Rangers. I said, what? And I'm thinking he's like, oh, no way. And then he's like, no, he said he was the prop guy for Power Rangers. And I walk over, and dude's booth is right there. Nobody's talking to this guy, by the way, which I think is a crying shame. But I also found out he was on Lucifer and all these other shows.
Yeah.
But and I'm just talking to him, and he had so much to talk to. He was so cool. So when I met him, I was asking all these questions, hey, what was your favorite thing to work on? What was your favorite thing? He said, honestly, there wasn't much to work on the first season because we were just buying the toys and just kind of putting them on the screen.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then he said, who's your favorite Ranger? And I was like, oh, it's growing up, it was Tommy. What was it though? He had these coins for sale, right?
Yeah.
And he said, and you can tell one of them was handmade because the white coin was not part of the original series.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, like, we had these Pogs that we were going to, when Pogs were a big thing, we were going to put out our own, and, you know, with Tommy on them, because Tommy was the White Ranger, but there were no White Ranger stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And Saban, you know, 86 that real quick. And he said, so I got like 50,000 White Ranger Pogs. And so he would pair those with all the coins. And then halfway through the conversation, he was just kind of like, I'm literally just picking this guy's brain. And he's like,
yeah,
awesome. Which, by the way, he was actually Lord Zed in the suit in Turbo.
Oh, wow.
So what I basically is, he gave me a Green Ranger coin made from the original mold.
Wow.
And I still have it. You know, I want to get like more of them and just kind of have Ranger sign off on them.
Yeah.
It hurts a little bit that I'll never be able to get Tommy to sign it, but yeah, it is
that's always a touchy subject too.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, keep that forever, man.
I definitely will.
Don't ever, you know, because like you said, coming from the original production and mold and stuff, that is actually really cool.
Oh, he's selling more stuff. Like, he's on Facebook, and I think I'm friends with him on Facebook, but he's actually selling like from the original mold. He found the molds for like the blasters from Time Force and things like that.
Wow. Time Force, yeah.
And not just like the blasters, but like the like, you know, especially like the Guardian Angels or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he's got their blasters because they can't use guns, so they have to use blasters. They're just modified looking like 38 specials.
Yeah. I was gonna run out of time. I was you said Time Force, and whenever I hear the word Time Force, the theme song just Time Force, Time Force, yeah,
Rangers.
And then boom, racing through. But I remember we were at camp, going back to camp in summertime, and one of my students, Jacob, he would come to help me with the camp. He was a teenager, and he was telling me that Time Force was his favorite season. And I had never watched Time Force. I watched through Lost Galaxy and then I was finally getting older. You know, I was graduating high school. I was going to college. You know, it was less time for me to sit down and watch stuff now. And I remember I didn't watch Lightspeed Rescue. I didn't watch. I think it was Time Force, Wild Force, and Ninja Storm. And then I finally reconnected with Dino Thunder. And that's arguably one of the best seasons. And it had Tommy in it, and that's what drew me back, because I was like, that Tommy? Oh, wow. Okay, cool. And he's a mentor. He's like a Yoda or a Miyagi or something. And I'm just
he's
like...
Zordon.
Yeah, he's Zordon. That's what it is. And it got me coming back because it's on JetX. And in college, I had time between classes, and it just happened to be on JetX reruns and they just overplayed Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, and SPD. Those 3 seasons, they were just overplaying those. And I remember watching them, and but yeah, he got me to watch. He's like, hey, during camp, you should watch Time Force. I didn't realize it was 50 episodes, though. 50, 30-minute episodes. And we started watching it. It was 5-day camp. We started watching the first day camp. We watched like 3 or 4 episodes, as many as we could. And I ended up being one of my favorite seasons, because he told me, he's like, you're going to like this because of the time element, because I'm a big time traveling, Back to the Future, time traveling aspect. And I watched it. But what really blew my mind was the fact that the Pink Ranger was the leader.
Yeah.
He was the leader.
Oh, she had that.
And she had, and like you said, Kimberly and Ashley, I can't remember, what was her name? The Pink Ranger in Time Force. I thought
Jen?
I think it was, yeah.
But she is ranked as like the top Pink Ranger.
Yeah. And I just liked overall, she was kind of grown up because she was the leader, and
she had more of a backstory too, because like her husband her fiance was the Red Time Force Ranger in the future, and he gets killed, or we think he gets killed.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Does he or doesn't he?
Does he or does he not? But yeah, I remember watching and I think at the end of camp, I was still about 6 episodes from the end of the season. So I went straight home and watched all 6 episodes because I wanted to know, because it was coming to that conclusion of they're gonna have to they had to go back to the future. Back to the Future.
Do they?
Back to the Future. They had to go back to their time, and it was going to be one of those the Red Ranger from the present was, and he was basically the identical twin of the.
That was his like great grandson or something like that. Yeah.
And I just wanted to see how it was going to end, but yeah, I always, like I was telling you the other day, in my YouTube music, a lot of times like a Power Rangers theme song will pop up. So it got me thinking, what's your top 5 favorite Power Ranger intros and music?
Okay, so if we're going intros,
just like the the go Power Rangers, all
I like
those.
Zeo as my top.
I love Zeo.
Wait,
yeah.
For the top, it's the tie between Zeo and then Space, because in Space was like down.
Yeah.
It was so that let's go with Dino Thunder for 3. No, wait. Wild Force for 3. Then Dino Thunder. Ninja Storm. Wait, that's top 5. All right, so that's that.
So I didn't think you could pick more than 5. I know you might have to do top 10.
Okay, so
top 10.
Jungle Fury is actually
Jungle
really
Fury,
cool. That was
yeah.
actually the last one I followed. Followed, but because that had like pop punk feel to it.
Yeah,
it was like really good. Then you had
Power Rangers.
SPD was really good too.
Yeah.
Because it felt like a cop show.
It's
It's
almost like what they wanted to do with Lightspeed Rescue. They couldn't do. They did with SPD.
Yeah. So you got that. Let's see. The original Mighty Morphin.
Okay.
Look, I love the original Mighty Morphin, but if they get the one with Buckethead playing, from the movie,
Yeah.
that's like one of the best versions of it. So if that jumps way ahead on the list.
Yeah.
But Mighty Morphin, it's a great song, but honestly it's kind of just one lyric over and over.
Yeah.
But unless you listen to the extended cut.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty much for the things. But if we're going for top 5 for music,
Mm-hmm.
all right. There's I Will Win as the top, and then you have Go Gold Ranger.
Yeah.
Then Go Green Ranger Go. I'm sorry, but Gold Ranger was a banger.
Yes.
White Ranger Tiger Power and called 541.
Yeah. I remember that CD I got from Kmart. I listened to it over and over and over and over again, and it had a story because it was the story of the very beginning of the second season where they got the Thunder Zords. They was it the Piranha guy or whatever?
Yeah,
and they
Francis.
and I remember my favorite one, Go Green Ranger, I Will Win. I liked the 541. I like the 541. Like you go the 541 anytime you need. And how many is that? 3. And Fight. I like Fight. And then I liked what was the other one? There was another one. I got it's in my head, but I can't remember the name of it. But I'll say the Green Ranger one is probably my favorite just because you knew Tommy. He was there. He's like
he got his own thing.
He had his own thing, and then even White Ranger was it the White Ranger Tiger Power and everything. But as far as intros,
but Gold Ranger got a music video.
Yeah, it did. Like intros were, my top 5 intros, and I always take out Mighty Morphin because I always feel like Mighty Morphin will be.
It's the standard.
It's the standard. But like you said, number 1, Zero. Just because of the way it's in your face. It's like
It starts out with them glowing in your face, like Zero.
And then they had that where they had all the and then the motorcycles and stuff, and it da 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 da, and it was almost like the Mighty Morphin on steroids, like stronger than before. Go Zeo. I loved Time Force because again, in your face, Time Force, and
the big clock just always.
Dino Thunder. I could listen to Dino Thunder. It wasn't so in your face, but it was something that I felt like got a lot of replay value. SPD. Just because SPD emergency, da, 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 and then go, and what was the other one? Dino Charge. Dino Charge, the newer one. I like that one because it was a take. it was a take on Mighty Morphin. It wasn't such a take like Samurai was, but it was a take. It had different lyrics, and it molded into the Dino Charge
theme song.
Theme, and it was like, and it's like, go go Power Rangers, don't you ever stop, go go Power Rangers, and I like to listen to that one over and over. So those are my top 5 of those.
Let me ask you, what were your top 3 like villains, like just say monsters of the week? Like,
Scorpina was like one of my favorites. I don't know if she was a top one, but I will say this here. I'll go ahead and this is one of my favorite ones.
Pudgy Pig.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
Iconic.
Yeah, Pudgy Pig. I don't know why he's.
I like Bones in like
Bones.
I think it's the second episode.
Yes.
Yes. Just because he looked menacing. Mm-hmm. Like, plus he had the skeleton like lackeys, and that was all cool to me.
Yeah.
I also kind of dug Pumpkin Rapper, obviously. Yes. I love all things Halloween.
Yeah. Which it wasn't Pudgy Pig, but which is the one that ate all their weapons in the first season? He
did.
Was it Pudgy Pig? Okay.
Pudgy Pig did, and then they had a plant monster.
That's why. Okay, yeah, okay. The plant, and it
was like a frog plant too.
One of them ate the Power Rangers, right? And
that was him.
Their weapons.
Yeah, the frog dude did.
That's
because he would get the little Rangers on there.
Yeah, those are my favorites. Those are my favorite ones, just because it showed. They didn't just run through them like they did almost everybody else. You know,
it was a struggle.
Exactly. It was a struggle. You know, and I liked how they did that in the first season. Then it just kind of becoming repetitive as far as like, you know what's going to happen. They're going to make a monster. Monster's going to go down. They're going to fight them. Putties first, then the monster. They morph. The guy throws their wand down, gets big. Power sword, done. And it was the same thing, but then like that, those are the most memorable to me, the ones they actually had to struggle with, that they had to. And the Rhino guy, the one that they got their weapons the first time, where they were with the Zords and the Zords weren't working, and they had to go back and get their weapons and did the combination of the weapons and the crossbow and kill them. Yeah, those are my most memorable villains.
I dug that they kept bringing them back, because it wasn't like Zed where he like turned something into a monster, and that was like that's that one monster.
Yeah.
But it's that Finster had a whole laboratory. He made these monsters. Yes. So he had a bunch of them on hand.
I love the mold, like the little putty molds and stuff, and he just
and they would always like do the whole like they were always like moving around like and
this. They're moving around. They're always moving.
Yeah, so they're sentient. Then you had but I always like love that aspect because it made it feel like they've been doing this a while. They have plans.
Yes.
But my thing is, why didn't Finster ever just like make a bunch of the same monster over and over? Just army of Pumpkin Rapper, army of Pudgy Pigs.
That's a good idea.
Because
that's good.
Let's also not forget the one really good monster that they turned giant was the Green Ranger.
Oh,
we always forget.
I remember, because that was one of those things to where, that was the coolest thing. Like that whole five episode thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we could get into that.
It was like the first time it felt like a soap opera.
Yes, and by the time you got to Friday, you were just like, is this? I think it was very developed. It was developed very well. Like
you were on the edge of your seat, because you were like, "What? No, this guy."
Because most things are like 2 parts, 2 parts, maybe 3 parts. But by the time you get to the 4th one, and then their Zords are gone at the very end of the 4th episode, you're just like, "What? Okay, how?" Like you thought, what are they going to do? They have nothing. And it's like the Green Ranger was so. Then they finally figured at the very end. They finally figured out who he was, and it was such a slow burn. And nowadays, I think everybody's so instant gratification. It'd be hard to do that, but it kept me engaged the entire week. And then when he joined, and it was like new Dragon Megazord and stuff, and and I'm like, it blew my mind. It blew my mind.
I loved it too, because like first off, every bit of the Green Ranger's armor was cool. The Dragon Dagger is still one of the coolest weapons of all time.
So you're more Dragon Dagger than Saba?
Yeah, but only because I don't want to have to worry about crushing someone's face when I swing the sword. Because Saba was sentient.
Yeah.
Also, just the fact that the flute itself did more than just, cut people. He played it and he would like activate his shield and he wouldn't get any damage.
Yeah.
Or he'd blow into it one time and there'd be like this beam of energy that comes out.
Yeah.
Which I dug. Although, I mean, if we're going for the movies, because, there's that one thing where he goes, like, he tosses it up in the air and the laser shoots out the cable.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep.
God.
Yeah.
Which I've loved every bit of, like I said, I love Power Rangers altogether, but there were some parts of that movie where it made it so much better. Like,
yeah.
Like I said, but villain-wise, I always thought that some of them had better villains than the other. I didn't realize until, like, earlier this year, the villains actually had a theme to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the first season was, like, yokai and things like that.
Yeah.
Then, like, at one point, it's, like, pollution. When it's, like, mythology and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my all-time favorite, like, villain leader was Diabolico from Lightspeed Rescue. I know you said you didn't watch Lightspeed Rescue.
That was the one I didn't.
He was menacing looking. Like, if someone came up to me as a kid and was like, "That's what Satan looks like," I'd be like, "I believe you."
Yeah. 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 But like I said, I want to go back and watch a lot of these, but it's hard to have time. I'm hoping when my daughter gets a little older, she'll really get into this stuff, because she's starting to develop that personality and everything. But
my cousin has these two kids that have been hanging around my mom. Like, my mom babysits for them, and she's trying to, like, find ways to, like, keep entertained and stuff like that. And she's like, "What should I start them out with?" I was like, "Well, there's always Power Rangers." She said, "They don't watch Power Rangers." Like, get them watching Power Rangers.
Put it in front of them and see what they do.
I gave her a list of, like, episodes or, like, seasons that they would probably like more, because I would love it if everybody started with Mighty Morphin. My other cousin, my other cousin's kid was staying with us during the snowstorm when I lived in Clayton.
Yeah.
And we were trying to fill time just because we couldn't go outside as much, because it was the snow was starting to get really heavy and traffic was getting back up.
Yeah.
So I asked him, like, we're watching Netflix, and I said, "Is there anything you like watching?" And he said, "I really like Power Rangers." And I said, "Oh, really? What Power Rangers do you like?" And then it was like, I think Megaforce was on at the time.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was it, but I said, "What was your favorite Ranger?" He said, "It was the Red Ranger." I said, "Which series you watched?" And I scroll through and he picks one. It was, like I said, I think it was Megaforce, because I was scrolling through and I can't remember.
Yeah.
And I said, I grew up watching Power Rangers. He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, but it wasn't this one." And I scrolled up to season 1 of Power Rangers. That was back when they had all of them just as seasons.
Oh yeah.
And I scrolled up to Mighty Morphin. I said, "This was one of my favorite seasons." And then I put on an episode where Tommy was on screen.
Yeah.
And I thought, this was my favorite Ranger, and the Green Ranger. And I haven't watched a couple episodes of Mighty Morphin. I said, "Who's your favorite Ranger?" He says, "That's my favorite Ranger."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, he is."
Yes,
and we
right.
spent the rest of that weekend watching Power Rangers. And
Yeah.
I'm saying all this now. I'm starting to sound like a Power Ranger cultist, if I'm being honest with you.
Nah, you're just a fan, man.
No,
I'm just a fan.
I'm a very enthusiastic fan.
A fan. No, it's been interesting. This whole conversation's been interesting, because I honestly didn't realize you know way more than I do, and I had always felt like that. But maybe I'm gonna demote myself now. Demote myself down instead of hardcore. Maybe more.
It helps that I don't have as much of a, like, responsibilities. Like, you have a business and stuff like that. I devote my free time just learning things.
It's okay, man. That's why, like I said, that's why I like having you here and stuff. But dude, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me. And I like you mentioned a lot of stuff like horror. Like, I'd love to talk to you eventually sometime about Scream, because I love the Scream, and you were talking about Matthew Lillard and everything. So maybe we can, hook back up here soon and talk about that and everything. Because heck, we just spent over an hour talking about just Power Rangers with little sprinkles here and there of everything else. But But dude, I think we could talk for a long time.
Yeah, I think you and me are the most talkative of the people we know.
Yeah, I'd like to get Z if we could ever get Z down here. That would be fun too. So. But we just have to reach out and see what he's got going on.
I feel like between the two of us, we could literally just, like, walk up to Saban and be like, "Why isn't this happening?" Yeah.
Saban, why? How in the heck can he play the flute with that helmet on?
Yeah.
I mean,
why
seriously.
does it sound like a synthesizer?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I've tried to do that, and I can't do it. But cool, dude, man. I appreciate you coming and stuff. And like I said, let's hook up later on and stuff. But I really appreciate it.
Anytime, anywhere, bro.
Heck yeah, man. Good deal. It's Bobby D. Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
And may the power protect you.
May the power protect you.